What's up, everybody? It's Sailboat from Sailboat Supplies here, and today I'm coming at you with another sole swap hybrid customization project. If you guys have tuned into the channel in the past, then you know that I've done a number of sole swap hybrids where I take one sole from one shoe and an upper from another shoe and Frankenstein them together essentially. Today, I'm going to be doing just that yet again. Instead of actually tearing pieces apart to put them back together, I actually have some spare pieces from previous projects that I'm just going to use and throw them together and see what I can get. The pieces in question, the uppers for some Adidas ZX4000 4Ds. I used the 4D midsole on these to actually combine them with the Yeezy 700v3. So I've had the uppers sitting around for a little bit of time now and haven't done anything with them obviously. For the soles, I'll be using these Yeezy 700 Kyanite soles that I've had sitting around after I swapped the uppers from the 700 Kyanites over to some 380 calcite glows. These components have just been sitting around for a little while now and I haven't done anything with them. I'm a little bit bored, so I figured I'd throw them together. I'm gonna walk you guys step through step for the process that I use as far as the preparation work, the gluing, and the bonding process, so you guys get a better idea of how exactly I go about doing my sole swap hybrids. Let's dive into the prep work right now. So the first step is one of the most important, but unfortunately one of the most boring steps as well, and that's the prep work. For this prep work, I had to remove all of the excess glue from both the soles and the uppers of the shoes. I used a combination of acetone and 15-7 restoration strip to help to remove the glue. I also utilized my heat gun to apply heat to help to break down the bond between the glue. I made sure that I applied the heat prior to applying my solvents because I didn't want to apply heat to any sort of solvent that was already on the uppers or the soles out of fear of damaging the uppers or the soles. When removing glue from the uppers, I tried to keep my chemical and heat use to a minimum. The reason for this is that sometimes the components of the uppers can be a little bit more fragile, and I want to make sure that I minimize any sort of damage that I cause during the glue stripping process. For all of the remaining glue that I couldn't get off using a solvent and cotton balls, I end up using a Dremel tool. I personally use a Dremel 4300 because I find that the power and control that I have with it is absolutely excellent in comparison to other rotary tools. Now I find that you can use a Dremel on the uppers for certain sections, especially depending on the material, but you have to be especially careful because you definitely don't want to damage the uppers when you're using your Dremel or rotary tool. Once I've removed all of the excess glue utilizing my Dremel tool, I utilize acetone on a cotton ball to remove any sort of excessive debris, so then that way I have clean surfaces when I go to apply my glue. When all my surfaces are clean, I utilize a heat pen to mark on the uppers where my glue lines are going to be, so then that way when I go ahead to apply my glue, I know exactly where to stop so that I don't get any excess glue on the uppers. For my gluing process, I utilize Barge Super Stick cement, which I found that has the best results so far out of any cement that I've used. I apply a first layer and then let it dry for about 20 to 30 minutes, and then I apply a second layer just to make sure that I've covered all of the areas that need to have cement applied. After that, I let everything dry for about 2 hours before heat activating all of the cement and creating a bond. For the bonding process, I normally start at the heel or the toe, depending on the alignment of the shoe. For this specific project, I found out that aligning things at the heel first was the most appropriate for me. It helped me to center everything as best as possible and made sure that the alignment was absolutely perfect before I went and heat activated the rest of the sections of the shoe and bonded everything together. You'll see that there were actually several times where I had to apply additional cement because I had missed a couple of sections during my alignment process in marking off all of the lines with my heat pen. This part of the process basically consisted of applying cement to areas that I might have missed on the first pass, reheating sections that needed to be bonded, and trying to align everything appropriately. I do the shoe section by section, so that way I'm able to align everything 100% and create a solid bond between the surfaces before I align other spots and create bonds there. And allows me to add extra cement, so then that way I get a proper attachment between my surfaces. I basically repeat this process over and over until I have the entire shoe bonded and everything is looking well aligned. Alright, so here we are, guys. I am finally finished with my sole swap hybrid of the Yeezy 700v3 soles with an Adidas ZX4000 upper. These actually look a lot cooler than I was expecting them to. It's a pretty interesting looking shoe, and it's definitely a lot different than either of the original models. I actually think that everything meshed up pretty nicely as far as the look is concerned, but there's definitely a few things that I should address because it was actually a pretty difficult project. One of the unfortunate things that happened with the right shoe is I kind of rotated the uppers a little bit laterally when I was bonding the uppers to the soles, and because of that, you can see that there's a bit of a difference from the right side to the left side when it comes to the actual lateral portion of the shoe and how much of the lateral components of the uppers are covered by the sole. This was a pretty challenging sole swap hybrid because the Adidas ZX4000 is actually a pretty narrow shoe, and the Adidas Yeezy 700v3 has a pretty wide sole. It might not seem like it as far as the 700v3 is concerned, because if you've ever worn a pair, you know that they seem to run pretty narrow. I think that's just due to the construction of the upper of the shoe, because when I've actually tried on this sole swap hybrid, it feels very comfortable and fits pretty much true to size. There are a few spots where I kind of over glued, and you can see that especially on that right shoe where the upper is rotated laterally. On the left shoe, it's pretty clean for the most part, but you can see a couple of spots where the glue lines aren't exactly perfect. As you could see with the time-lapse footage, there are actually several instances where I had to go through and apply additional glue, because unfortunately when I was trying to line up the uppers with the soles, I didn't get them 100% correct. Overall, I'm pretty excited with the way that these came out. I think that they're a lot better looking than I had originally expected them to be. To be honest with you, it was a little bit more challenging than I expected it to be. I thought that these components were going to match up a little bit more nicely, but it took a little bit of pressure and a little bit of force to kind of get everything to match up the way that they were supposed to. When you take a couple of old components that are just laying around as scrap material and you try to put them together, you never know exactly what you're going to end up with. The Yeezy 700v3 soles are actually surprisingly comfortable on foot when they're matched up with a mesh upper. At the end of the day, it's a really good looking shoe, and I'm really excited for the results because I wasn't really sure how these were going to turn out. I hope that you guys enjoyed watching this video and learning a little bit more about how I do my sole swap hybrids. As per usual, thank you to everybody that stopped by today to take a look at this project. If you're interested in taking a look at the inventory that I have for sale or seeing any more pictures of some of the customization projects that I've done, make sure to check out my website at www.sailboatsupplies.xyz. I can also be found on Instagram at Sailboat Supplies. For everybody that stuck around until the cold, bitter end of this video, thank you guys so much. Your support means the world to me. As always, I'm Sailboat, and I'm out of here.